So, last time we saw we basically added the cover positions, stuff like that, for our enemies. Okay, depending if they can find a cover position or not, and then they will move into attack or, well, get it to cover. And now let's see, let's start grouping this together, okay, because there's no actual need which one of these are actually, well, you know, unless they are going to actually shoot towards the player, there might not be a need to do a recast towards them. So for right now, we're just going to, let's get rid of some of these guys, because we only have to worry about one. Okay, yeah, let's leave it something like that. Let's leave this down here. Let's group some of this under an empty game object, so that we do not have all the stuff lying around. Okay, and the waypoints can actually, let's put them also over here, doesn't matter. Later on we're going to make editor tools so that we can rotate and move around. We have our player and we have two AIs. I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to rotate him around, and I'm basically just going to reset all its waypoints. I just want him to just sit like that. So the first guy is seeing our player and he's going to go into a cover position. Of course, this is not really what we want, so we're also going to fix that as well. So let's go into our AI. Let's fix first the cover position problem, which he was trying to come from over here. And let's see, enemy AI, let's open it up. And if MonoDevelop decide to Visual Studio decide to work, that will be pretty good, but apparently it doesn't want to. Here it is. Okay, so let's find our we have our common behaviors, we have our set behavior, test behavior, get to cover. So what we are seeing is get to cover from our AI director, and it's going to check with a few distances, okay, from and then towards where we are looking for. Let's put another call inside this, I believe. It's basically going to check the distance. Oh yeah, well, basically the distance is higher than the, yeah, we have also a higher distance, so let's put another one of these, and we're going to call this target. Yeah, well, basically just target will be enough. Let's do final references, target, and we also want to, oh, we don't need to, because we are already passing the last known position in this case. So let's remove this, and we're basically just going to use the towards, so it's the same as the last known position. And we're also going to do, we have the distance, so now we also want to do another distance, float distance from target, and we're going to do vector3.distance, okay, from and towards. And if the distance from is higher than 80, or well, let's just make it 20, or yeah, let's leave it by 80 so that we can test it that the other thing is going to work. Okay, and or if the distance from is distance from target is lower than the distance from that cover position, then we're basically going to skip it, because technically it's going to just be a position on the other side. Okay, so if the position, the distance between this, okay, and here, it's greater than the player position, so that means it's not going to take any of these cover positions. Let's test it. Okay, you will see that he just ignores it, ignores any cover positions that are further away from the player. Okay, so now let's see that this guy is basically just going to also warn this guy, and they will both turn and fight the player. So let's see, get cover, and basically there's two ways we can do this, and depending on the game you want to make or what type of game you want to make, you can choose either one or the other. One is that when somebody spots the player, think like action games, FPSs, okay, when somebody spots the player, then they all just attack him. They don't worry about if somebody hears them or how far away somebody else it is, because if it's far away, then it just hasn't spawned yet. Okay, especially with small scale action games, which is basically almost all AAA games. Okay, but yeah, if you want something more advanced or something like that, not more advanced, if you want something a little bit more sophisticated, so that the actual AI works a little bit like how in real life could have worked. Okay, although yeah, this is actually a big discussion, because you can say that if somebody sees him, somebody else that is a little bit far away doesn't necessarily see him as well, or doesn't hear him. But then again, if somebody fires a gun, you're probably going to hear it from a few meters away, or not just a few meters away, a few kilometers away probably. Okay, so it's all that stuff that are basically relative to what you want to do. Okay, so I can't cover any example or all the examples, or you can't do something that is going to work for everything. You have to just use your own initiative over here. We're just going to see fairly basics. Okay, fairly basic stuff that we're going to and see how they work if you indeed want to actually use this in a game. So we can do a public, let's see, we don't necessarily have to return something, so let's start with void. Let's call this alert enemies close by. Well, here's the simplest part, the simplest way we can do this. We can just throw a list, and we can have all our enemy stats over here. Okay, and we can call this all enemies, and all you can do over here, if well, let's also pass an origin, and let's make sure we actually populate this before we forget. So on enemy stats, well, not enemy stats, we want actually enemy AI, not enemy stats. Director enemy AI, and on our enemy AI inside start we have the AI director as a singleton. So what we can do is AI director, okay, dot all enemies dot add this. So we have our enemies, we basically have all our enemies inside one list. So the simple thing to do right now will be to, let's see, we can basically just skip a few of the stuff. So for example, we won't have to worry about if it's idle, if it's late idle, in radius and stuff like that. We can just move into either in view, probably I think in view is better way, is clear. We also have the is clear to work with. So let me think. We're going to just move into inserts. Okay, we'll start with that and we will see what we can do. So for now, let's do a for each loop into all our enemy. Okay, all our enemies. Let's say change state, MEI state. So let's throw in inserts and we'll see what this is going to do. And of course, alert enemies close by. We only have to do this once, because we probably don't need to alert them anymore. And I think it should be probably inside when you are in view. So let's do an AI director, alert enemies close by, transfer those dot position. Now the origin, we don't do anything with the origin right now, so it doesn't matter. And yeah, it worked like a charm, or as you will expect it, but they move into the actual, yeah. Here's one problem we get is that they both updated, so that means the current AI, this guy also lost the logic he had. So an easy way to fix this will be if we pass this in this one, and now go to definition to fix that. Let's say enemy AI, and if A is not the actual AI, then change state to inserts. Now of course inserts didn't work as we expected it, but let's try it again and we'll see. Yeah, because he goes directly on the last known position. So let's try in view and we'll see if that changes something. No, it doesn't. We have so yeah, that's probably not good. Yeah, because this, yeah, that's probably a bad idea. So what we can do is maybe check if well, actually let's write it a little bit simpler. And a for loop will be more it will require less performance in this, so let's change it into a for loop. Oops. Okay, all the enemies, although it probably doesn't want to really matter that much, I believe. So if all enemies I is the AI we are actually calling this from, then it's going to skip this one. Okay, but if also the current state, or this is yeah, this is the current state, is in view, again just skip it, and we are missing an equal sign over here. Let's test this and we'll see. We might have to update a few more. Yeah, this worked like a charm, as you can see. Okay, if we duplicate all of these guys, basically only this guy is going to look towards the player. Okay, everybody is alerted and if only one guy is looking, even if only one guy is looking there. Well, now you can see, you can basically alert him the first time he's going to fire. You can alert them anytime you want, basically. You can put delays, you can make them play different animations. All that are stuff we might see or we might not see, because animations are hard to find. We're going to see what we're going to do with it. So let's do a few more other stuff. So let's put, instead of having all our AIs ready, let's create a new game object, and we're going to call this enemy spawn positions, and we're going to create, well, basically let's call this, let's change this, let's place them, we just want them to be on a nav mesh, otherwise we might have issues. Okay, it doesn't matter where, let's place them somewhere. So what we can do, let's create, let's do it on the AI director, it won't matter. Let's make another list. Let's take the transforms and let's call this spawn positions, and of course, because you probably don't want to do this all of them by hand, we're going to call this spawn parent. So on start, we're going to take all the game objects that are underneath your spawn parent, and I think we can actually get all of them. Get cell count. Yeah, let's do it the dirty way, or whatever. Oops. Get component in children, components in children's plural. Okay, game object, and then let's do it for each. Nobody cares. Transfer t mean spawn parent. Oops. Yeah, that won't work. Okay, and then oops. That's the correct way. So spawn positions will be now. This will also take the game object and the transform of the spawn parent. Okay, if that's not something you want, then if g equals the spawn parent, okay, skip it. And also, if we forget to assign the spawn parent, okay, skip this as well. Because I assure you, the first thing you're going to do is actually forget that you have to also assign. So let's take this and drop it over here. And yeah, I'm clicking play, but we're not going to see much. And let's see. Oh, yeah, that was dumb. So let's do it like this, and instead of yeah, we're going to do this a little bit dirtier. So spawn positions, add range, geos. Okay, and if you want to remove the spawn parent, okay, you're going to say if spawn positions. You can run contains first if you want to be safe, but let's not be safe, let's be dangerous. Okay, remove basically spawn parent, and fingers crossed this is going to work. And that happened. The error we got is because the game objects do not actually derive from mono behavior, but the transfers are. Okay, so that's why we cannot use. Basically, it says you that the game objects are not actually components; they are objects. Okay, and you can see that we have our spawn positions. Now, instead of alerting all one or having all AIs have one. Basically have their own AI state, we can have an AI state in basically in the AI director, which is basically your whole level. Okay, or your whole section of a level, whatever you want to do with it. Then we can, as I said, put AI states to the AI director, which is going to, well, let's see how we can do this. And yeah, let's create it over here, it doesn't matter. Public enum. Let's call this AI director states or something like that, or director states, or let's make it D states because I don't want to write a whole train every time. And we're going to, let's start with normal, and maybe alert. Yeah, although just 2 states for, yeah, it's not really ideal, to be honest, to have an enum just for 2 states. But if you want to add more, then it's probably best if you want to also add more. So yeah, just forget that. Let's forget the AI states at least for now, because after we've finished with some of this, we're going to try and do something with the AI director that it was in Left 4 Dead. Okay, so you have downtime and you have the action time and stuff like that. Okay, so yeah, I think it's better if we try to do it later. So alert, or yeah, let's do only a bool for right now. Let's call if it's alert, and we're going to call all the enemies, and we're going to say if not, or let's say if alert, then simply return. But if you're not alert, set up the alert to true, and then we're going to spawn enemies. So let's write over here, let me scroll back, void spawn additional enemies. Now of course you have a lot more control right now on basically how you want to spawn them. You want to spawn them on random positions, you want to spawn every second, every time. So I think the best way to do this, let's do let's see, maybe coroutine is not really ideal. Well, at least let's for now just do a coroutine. Okay, as I said, these are examples, so don't write with me, because you probably don't want a coroutine to do this. You can do it otherwise. So let's call this spawn enemies interval, and we can do a yield return new wait for, let's go with seconds, 5, and let's also add an integer over here. Let's call this index, we'll start at 0, and we're going to say if index is lower than 0. Okay, actually we don't want this index over here, we want this outside of the coroutine, so we're going to call it spawn cycle. Let's delete this. We're not going to add a while loop because we don't want this to be on a while. Maybe 5 seconds will be too much for the video, so let's drop it to 2. So let's see, let's take a random, and basically we want the range to be from 0 to spawn positions. Dot count minus, well, we don't need the -1 because it's going to take -1 from the count. Okay, so we have a random number, so all we need to do is actually instantiate the enemy. We will need a prefab for our enemy, so public game object, enemy prefab. Okay, and let's create a game object, geo instantiate enemy prefab as game object, and geo, or let's do it all in the same place, spawn positions run dot position. Okay, and then just whatever rotation you already have, it won't matter, as game object. And now we can do game object and do not game object, let me think what I want. Yeah, get component enemy AI, and basically just change state. In case we don't have a target already assigned, which probably it's not going to be assigned, as I can see. Let's see what we do on start. Okay, we actually need to assign the player target. So we also need to have a reference to a game target into our AI director. Also, game target. Let's go down here. Change state, and before let's do this a little bit more fluidly. Enemy AI, geo component, enemy AI. Okay, AI. Player target will be target player, or game target. Why did I call this game target? Player target. Okay, and change this to this one as well, and we won't need this anymore. AI, drop it, and we are over here. Okay, so this will create after 2 seconds is going to create a new player. We're going to add into our spawn cycle, and then we're going to basically call this function, spawn additional enemies. And we want this inside our coroutine, coroutine, spawn enemies interval. But if, oops, yeah, actually we won't need this over here. So if spawn cycle is higher than 5, return. Otherwise, basically do this, call this coroutine 5 times. Yeah, because when the coroutine ends, it's going to run this. And of course, because I know you're going to forget, is that if enemy prefab is null, okay, do nothing. If player target is null, okay, these are just if statements for the video, okay, because when people are following this, let me assure you that you're going to forget to assign them in the inspector, so we're just putting this over here so that you don't comment that you get a null reference error. have our AI director. Let's throw in the player target, and we can make an enemy prefab from something we have as a prefab over here, or we can just take one of these, one of the enemies we already have, or actually, yeah, that will be a bad idea because it's going to also duplicate all the components on the current state. So we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call this prefabs, and for right now let's drop in an AI director and then prefab. So when somebody calls the AI director, okay, of course we have one problem. Agent of enemy AI, yeah. And what happened right now is that it hasn't yet initialized, but we called, okay, this hasn't run yet, but we called basically to change his state. So to fix that, we're going to do a public void init, and we're going to take all of this and copy paste them over here. So on start, we're going to just do this, and if you want to be entirely safe, okay, because if you run the init and then start will run, it's basically just going to override your change state you have. So we're going to say if is initted. So if he is initted, basically return, otherwise he has already init once at least. Okay, and now which we have this, we can override his execution order by on our AI director, where we are actually instantiating this guy. The first thing we're going to do is, well, the second thing we're going to do is simply call init. Close this, and let's see if this is going to work. And of course it does. Okay, so every 2 seconds we're going to be getting well, the positions are random, as you can see, so that means you might have multiples. Okay, but you will see that they all move towards each other. Now of course they have, yeah, you might get something like this, so that everybody's falling along the line, but in an actual game you're probably going to have something more sophisticated, or something that spawns players. You're going to have something more differently. So again, the best way to handle this will be to just make AI director states, to be honest. Okay, so that means, you know, in this area you will set it up that if somebody sees the player, then you're going to spawn 5 guys, and you're going to use and they're going to go over there and stuff like that. Like for example, in most, yeah, I think at least in the old Call of Duties, okay, that's what basically was happening when you were spawning. Every enemy, when he was creating, he was assigned to a waypoint. Okay, if he didn't actually spawn there, then he will spawn into some specific places, and then he will go another. Actually, if we had video of this, yeah, so I'm going to look to record some videos from other games. Maybe it will help a little bit more. So basically, yeah, it spawns somewhere, go over there, go to that position. We have predetermined, it might be random also from other predetermined positions. Okay, or you might just want to just throw them in the scene and go directly after the player, depending on if it's an assault class, stuff like that. Okay, and yeah, basically just do from there, and if you see the enemy, if you don't see the player, do everything else and everything else. So everything is basically just jumping off into a new position, into a new position, and to a new thing, and everybody is basically doing their own thing. Okay, so basically that's a lot of how you know, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. They do not actually have choices. It's really yeah, it's basically if you're going to sell the illusion that you're going to the illusion of choice, basically. Now you might think that this is not really that realistically, but if you had any military training or in the past, okay, then you will know that in case there is battle, you are supposed to go into a specific point, okay, and guard it until you, well, basically you either won or, you know. Okay, so yeah, a lot of stuff work like this, even if it does look, you know, a little bit boring or stuff like that, but yeah, you will find that truth is stranger than fiction, actually. Okay, so we'll see. Now, of course, we can't cover every option because every game will have different needs. So just always keep that in mind, that these are more examples. When we finish and we cover with most of the stuff, we're going to actually take this, do changes, and use it for the types of games we are making. Okay, so that's, well, most of this, that's where they're going to make more sense, basically. Okay, because right now, yeah, it's just you know, it's just basically discussion, nothing more, showing a few examples. So yeah, we've seen how to alert actual enemies, how to spawn new enemies based off only if somebody has seen the player, because if nobody has seen the player, okay, let's close the player, and we didn't actually close the player, I think. Oh yeah, we did. Okay, he's going to move towards the waypoint and everybody's going to go above the business. Okay, so we're going to end it here. You know what to do. Like, subscribe if you like to see more, and if you like to support me so I can continue making more, then your support is really appreciated. The ways you can support me is either through Patreon. Check also the additional rewards depending on the tier you are in. Okay, and of course the other way is by grabbing a project or two from Gumroad, and including this one. When it's done, it's going to be the advanced AI project that is already there. I'm going to make them into one single package, so if you want something from the old ones, or if you want to work with this, you can. So I'll see you next time.